Hello, welcome to my channel. This is the Charmed Life channel, all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. And I am your host here. My name is Tricia Carr. I want to invite you to this live stream to like, subscribe, share, comment, and leave a little post at the bottom there. Well, that's what a comment is, isn't it? But click the little bell too to get notifications for when I'm going to go live. And I'm giving a little bit of a hello as we start here, because this is a live stream, but it takes a moment or two for people to get the notice that I'm starting. So hello to replay watchers all, but I already have quite a few people joining me. Hi, you guys. Okay, well, I'm going to give it just 30 seconds for folks to join. And in the meantime, I'm just going to play this little bit, this 30-second video about the intuitive intensive that starts next week, but it's really kind of starting this week because we do have a preliminary meeting on Sunday, but you guys don't want to miss it. So here's 30 seconds of that. Hang out with me if you're on live, and I will be right with you. Here we go.
Sense that there's more to life than what you can see.
Lightshine Spiritual Academy presents the Intuitive Intensive, a groundbreaking 8-week program designed to blast open your intuitive abilities and catapult you into a dynamic, connected, and psychic life.
Join spiritual teachers Crystal Ann Compton and Tricia Carr in this immersive program of education, high vibration, and group coaching. Class begins the week of January 23rd, 2022.
All right, guys, that was it. Okay, I want to click over here to the chat so I can see you guys and see who's here. And I want to tell you also that if you are watching from Facebook, not private chat. Where is chat? Comments. There it is. Hi. If you're watching on Facebook, then it would be great if you want to click through at the top. There is a link, or you can copy and paste, I think, and it's facebook.com/StreamYard. And it helps me to be able to see your beautiful name when you comment. But that's okay if you're here that way. That's what happens if I highlight a comment and it says Facebook user. That's why. So welcome to my magic hour tonight, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm here to share some tips for empaths, highly sensitive folks, and also to do some readings, Hi, Alicia. Hi, Kayla. Oh my goodness. Hello, everyone. Hi, Javier. Nice to see you. Hi, Brian. Oh, goodness. Hi. It is live, Alicia. Is this live? Yes, I'm alive, and this is live. I know you didn't say am I live. I just felt funny. Hi, Chastity. Oh, Chastity. Sorry, I said it wrong. Hi, Chastity. Hi, Joanne. Okay, everyone. I want to share with you. This is actually the tiniest bit of a sneak peek of a lesson that is in the Intuitive Intensive, and the link there is right there. But let me tell you, the Intuitive Intensive is an 8-week immersive program designed to blast open your psychic intuitive abilities. And more than that, it is a personal spiritual development program. It is designed to help you to live with your intuition, to have evidential psychic intuitive experiences. And I will say that the way that Crystal Ann Compton and I teach and contextualize psychism is that it is all about unity. It's all about the light, and the magic that we experience is like, there's no magic if it's not magic for all. So that's why it has that personal development feature with it as well. What's that? You watched our video at your spiritual center. What's your spiritual center? Ooh, tell me more, Brad. Thank you for watching it. I was just thinking about that the other day, that video. It's interesting because excuse me, I have a video on walk-ins, and I'm presenting a perspective that's like maybe a counterpoint to how some people present it, and I stand by it. But what I think, if I want to do a part 2 of that, is that I might talk about imprints and also just coalescing, energies coalescing. You see, the way that walk-ins is talked about or taught, at least the way that I've seen it, is people talk about it as a complete, displacement of the energy that created the physical form. And what I'm concerned about that with is that it is not embracing the truth that the energy actually creates the physical form. The spirit, the soul creates. And so, as I say in this video about walk-ins, that it can't really be that literal or it's such a jarring experience, because it would be a total a full body organ rejection. You know what I mean? Like if you have if you have an organ transplant and the body rejects it, that's what would happen if it happened that way. But I can see it's basically like channeling is what I think maybe what is happening with some walk-ins, and it can be a spectrum of experiencing a passenger or a co-pilot with you. So anyway, if you're confused about what I'm talking about, I made a video about walk-ins, and walk-in is the idea that a soul takes the place of the existing soul. And I definitely don't mean to offend anyone who's like, I'm definitely a walk-in. Again, this is just philosophy. Tell me more about that though, Brad. What is that about? What's your spiritual center? Is it in Los Angeles? Can I go? Like a parasite can it? Yeah, I think maybe, but that's more of an attachment. I think when people are talking about walk-ins, they're talking about, they usually talk about it as though it's successful. You know what I mean? And that it's, oh, here we go. Here's what he's telling me. The International Peacehood Society for Spiritual Development and Cosmic Awareness. I want to go to there. Okay, thank you. I want to take actually a screenshot of that so I don't forget. Because I will forget what time. Thank you, Brad. Nice to meet you in Chicago. Okay, cool. All right, everyone. So we do have the Intuitive Intensive coming up, and that is coming up. The registration will be active, available until I think Monday, maybe Tuesday, the whatever date that is, 22nd, 3rd, somewhere along those. No, Sunday is the 23rd. So Monday the 24th or maybe Tuesday the 25th, because we start on the 25th. And you don't have an online aspect? Okay. Well, that's all right, Brad. Brad, tell me more about this. How did you guys, that's amazing to me that Chicago watched my video. You have oh, thank you, Brad. I'm sorry. I'm having a conversation with Brad, but Brad's right here on the live feed with me. So, and you could be too. Next time I do this, I'll give a little more heads up. Okay. So anyway, Intuitive Intensive Immersive Program to change your life and blast open your psychic abilities. It is to really trigger and cultivate an awakening at whatever place that you are in your connection with being being a psychic or being connected to your intuitive abilities. And these are perfectly natural. Intuition is natural. Intuitive abilities, meaning like you actually have skills to do magic and to have energy manifest according to your intention and attention. And that's I was kind of bumping around in this world for a while until about, gosh, I think it's 10 years ago now. And I did actually, meaning I was during my unawakened time, somewhat unawakened, you know what I mean? Like that, it's not that we have all of these mini awakenings. And even if you have a grand awakening, as I did several years ago, which the demarcation of that grand awakening was awakening to really fully embracing my metaphysical philosophy and my mystic artistry, and then being able to make that into evidential spiritual skills, evidential psychic skills, or skills that provoked evidences. And that's alchemy, that's magic. That's what the Intuitive Intensive is designed to do, and to have you shift your life in that manner. What does this say? What about reoccurring students? Okay, so in the Intuitive Intensive, John, check your Facebook group of whatever year that you were in the Intuitive Intensive. And Stephanie C. Weinman made a post there to email her, because you have a returning student code that is a deep discount. It's like $111, not like, it's $111 versus the $555. Let me see. How do you know when you're having an awakening? How long does it last? Well, I'll keep you posted because I'm still having an awakening. No. Well, I don't know. I mean, that is very subjective. It's very personal. An awakening is epiphanic, having epiphanies about your perspective, shifting and changing your perspective, about coming out of conditioning. And so that's why it's very subjective. It's very personal. Thank you so much. Spirit is giving me an example that maybe you can actually relate to this, Mikey. I'm not sure if this is kind of tailored for you because you have this experience like I've had. In my past, because I have a tendency, I have a shadow aspect that is very predominant in codependency. It has partly to do with my design, because in my gene keys profile, I have the shadow of codependency in 3 places. And then, that magnetizes from the dispatch into this incarnation, a setup that will challenge that. And the challenge is the way to transcend it. So that means that my family was dramatically in codependent, provoking behaviors. My father was a violent alcoholic. My mother is still with us, and I'm not going to disparage her character in any way. But at any rate, so I moved into, in my very first adult relationship, pretty much my first adult relationship was with a very narcissistic, like, I'm positive this person would have been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, a very controlling narcissist. And I was a very disempowered, enabling codependent. And I was in that relationship for 7 years, like a friggin' disciple, like a servant to it. And really, it came to the point toward the end of the 7-year period where I wished one of us would die. I'm admitting that. And I would have that, like when I would think it, because I was like, and I wasn't feeling violent against him or myself, but I thought, I can't live the rest of my life this way. And that's how like codependent I was, and how lost of identity I was. To me, there was no option to leave. And anyway, there's a lot. I mean, if I told you the whole holograph of this, you'd be like entertained. But at any rate, like, that's what it came down to, was essentially it was killing me. And so when I was having those thoughts of maybe one of us will die, and I didn't say I wish, I would be like, in my mind, the thought would be like, maybe one of us will die and then this will end. And that was kind of like making me go, no, that's not appropriate. That's not life. At some point, I realized I need to start living. And so I started to make some movements in the flow of having an identity, which was so ridiculous. All it was like having one phone call with a friend, because that's how controlled I was. And it angered him if I had a phone call with a friend. And then the other thing that I did that was the bold and brash move in our situation was for me to take one class at the community college during the summer session. And it was like music 101, you know what I mean? Like music history 101. And it was such a departure from his approval and control that he knew that it was a huge move. Now, I'm telling you this long story because I feel like a lot of us can relate to it, but also I'm directly answering your question, Mikey, so hang with me. And so I really decided to take this class. He was doing all of the regular things that he does to try and punish me for it, which really was throwing fits, giving me the cold shoulder, like acting like it was making him sick. It was hurting him that I was doing something like that. And why are you doing that? And all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, I just want to. And so one night, in the middle of the night, after I had already taken the first class, this person was up. And he woke me up from my empathic nature. He knew how to work my empathic nature. So he woke me up basically telepathically or telempathically. And I was like, even in the other room, because we didn't sleep in the same rooms. And I went in the room and I was like, what's going on? Because he had energetically woke me up. And he was just kind of like, I can't even describe it. Like physically, like he would just be like, acting all dramatic and grunting like, oh, I'm hurt. And I was like, what's up? And he's like, he just said to me, just kind of looked at me very almost soberly and honestly for once. And he said, You haven't made any decisions that you can't unmake. And what he was saying to me was he was giving me an ultimatum, was stop taking this class, which means stop defying me and come back into this. But I just chose to hear it very another literal way, which was you can unmake the decision to be in this relationship. And that was a moment of awakening for me. And I took that and I ran. And I say I ran because it was a year-long process to part ways with this person, because he still kept trying to pull me back. But I chose to stay awakened. I chose to be awake in that and to see and let everything crumble. All of the red flags, all of the conditioning, all of the controlling, I chose to negate it and I chose to no longer live it. So that for me was an awakening. That awakening it lasted a year, because in that specific situation, it took me a year to get out of it after I had the epiphany of awakening to it and saying, I'm choosing that this is the permission for me to dismantle the contract of being in this relationship and potentially dying, because one of us was going to die. So that was an awakening. So spiritual awakening isn't only about realizing that maybe you have psychic abilities. It's something much more profound than that. And so the way that my metaphysical awakening happened was I was waking up every morning after having really improved my life. And I had a career that I loved and a partner that I loved and everything. And I had a wonderful family. But I kept waking up having these feelings, and I would go like, what is this? It's and I would like let it bubble and I would let it come up into a thought. And the thought would be, I hate my job and I'm afraid of this day. And it was literally the opposite at the time. I loved my job. I loved what I was doing. And so it was really confusing to me. And I thought, well, this isn't good for my health. It's hard enough to have the thoughts that I do think and the feelings that are mine. And I didn't know that they weren't my feelings, but I just knew they weren't appropriate because they didn't align with me. So I was like, why should I have negative feelings and thoughts that aren't even true for me? My body already has to deal with the stuff that I create. So I was confused by it. And I didn't know the word empath, or I had not really paid any attention to it. I'd heard it on Star Trek and Charmed, but I didn't really, think about it. And I had never had a psychic reading. I was not into anything psychic or mystic, not fully at least. I had been studying consciousness expansion from Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra and stuff like that, but that's not the same as, what we do, the psychism and everything. The Eckhart Tolle isn't talking to you about how to develop your psychic skills. And so it seemed to me on a whim to book an appointment, a 15-minute appointment with a psychic. And why not? My mind is strong. So see, I'd already had that awakening that my mind wasn't weak and that I could just be in some situation and not be carried away by it. And so I booked this 15-minute call, and that was the first thing she said was, well, you're an empath, right? Like she thought I just knew that. And I was like, wow, what's that word? I don't know. And she's like, well, an empath is someone who has feelings and that other people, they pick up feelings as though they are their own, and they have other people's thoughts and feelings. And as she was saying the words, I started to sob, even though I didn't fully grasp them. They were coming into my energy without my cognitive mind catching up. So that was an awakening moment. And so then that set me on a journey to uncover my animal communication, to uncover my mediumship, to uncover blah, blah, blah. And so the bulk of that awakening process, there was this stark moment of like power, like pow. And that lasted for me in that particular time, I would estimate about 6 weeks. And then after that, I started like moving along and opening up these different skills and shifting my life. But then the long tail of it is I still am learning about what it means to be an empath and learning about what it means to be an empath who doesn't have to be codependent, but can be sensitive in a strong way that actually leads to a divine gift of something that is like divine sacrifice, and not to the depletion like a martyr, but being able to sacrifice this personal ego for the collective ego, and to really I'm still learning that. So the awakening continues to go on. I hope that's helpful, Mikey. I don't know. I don't know if that's helpful, but yeah. Yeah, I was afraid of the day. I really was. It makes sense. You're welcome. Thank you for asking. And Alicia says, oh, that made the hair on my neck stand up. You haven't made any decisions you can't unmake. I know. And you know what? It's so weird. Honestly, here's the deal, Alicia, that when he said that to me, it was actually, I had a mini epiphany. It's like having a mini orgasm, but you kind of like keep going. I had a mini epiphany while I was saying that, because I didn't realize until now that he actually meant, at the time I was visiting the timeline, he meant you can stop taking that class and I won't be mad at you anymore. I chose not to hear it that way. Like my higher self kept me from that version of it so I wouldn't lose my identity once again, because what I heard from him was, you have a way out of this because you can unmake the decision to be in this relationship. That actually just came to me, and it's been, how old am I? It's been 20 years. That's amazing. So how long does an awakening last? That's wild. I gotta say, that's wild. I was just moving along, so I wanted to tell the story, but I really did just have that awareness show up. Super manipulative. Yes, absolutely. I know. John Rodriguez says he loves the gene keys. I'm happy you referenced that work. Oh my gosh. So John, I am taking the Pearl sequence right now, which is one of the programs. We're about halfway through. And yeah, I love the gene keys too. I'm a reflector. My human design is a reflector. And it's almost like there's no design is what a reflector is. So the gene keys has so much for me to dig into. And I'm so into it. Everyone, if you don't know what we're talking about, the gene keys is a system that has been formed, I don't know what you would say, by Richard Rudd. And the book, you could just find the book, Gene Keys. And I love to both read it and listen to it, because he's it's just so phenomenal. And it's based on, well, first of all, he says that, because he worked with human design for a very long time. I don't know how long, a decade or more. And so he says that's definitely a foundation for it. But he expanded it even more in the area of the I Ching. And it's, hi, Danielle. And so, yeah, it's amazing. So it's one of the things, is an archetypal system. So you put in your birth date and the time and place, and then you get this wonderful chart, and it shows you these different spheres that hold your gene key, and then each gene key has a shadow, has these frequency rings of shadow, gift, and siddhi, SIDDHI, which means divine gift. So gene key 19 is in 3 places on my chart. God bless me. And the shadow of gene key 19 is codependency. The gift is sensitivity, and the siddhi is sacrifice. And the sacrifice thing, it's really, what's really amazing about it, when I talk to friends about it and I contemplate gene keys, is that from the shadow level, if you try to look at the siddhi, you're like, but that's what the shadow does. Like, codependency is sacrifice, right? No, but you can't really see the siddhi from the gift, but you can see the siddhi from, no, excuse me, you can't really see the siddhi from the shadow, but you can see the siddhi from the gift. So as I am vibrating with the gift of sensitivity, which means to be aware of what everyone is feeling and needing in a way that I can help to be a balance, hold space for it without identifying to it, which is what a codependent does. A codependent releases their identity, their personal identity, to be someone else's identity, to be another ego identity, a different ego identified. And so then, but sensitivity is more of the, it's more independent, but it's beginning to become interdependent. And that's what the sacrifice siddhi is. A sacrifice means I don't need my personal ego. I am one with the field, and let's move together. And so that's what it's actually the elimination of competition when we're in that frequency ring of sacrifice. Oh, yes, I know. Yes, thank you. I can't suffer enough to make you happy. That's absolutely true. I reference that in my mind a lot, and I reference it in teachings. Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, you can't become sick enough to make someone else well. Oh, Chastity says that my son passed away in 2015, and his passing has awakened me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss. And that is actually an interesting, if we can say that, a bittersweet gift that does happen with our loved ones passing. And in fact, with my own personal awakening that I was just talking about, my best friend at the time, her mother-in-law passed, who was really like a mother to her. But she didn't tell me about it for a few weeks because she was just like so devastated. And, we didn't live that near to one another. So it was like it wasn't that uncommon that we wouldn't talk for a few weeks. And she was just having such a difficult time. Because I'm an empath too, I think, her pain and grief actually caused me to have an awakening by proxy because of what was happening to her. And I didn't even know that that was what was happening. But here's what happens when our loved ones pass. A piece of us leaves the physical realm because they are a piece of us. A physical piece of us it's as your son, he is a part of your body. And so as the part of him that creates his body left this dimension, and that a piece of you went to the beyond. And that takes your awareness, that takes your consciousness, that takes you to that perspective. And so that's why it triggers an awakening, because if being asleep means to be not looking to a higher realm, but paying attention to this set of information, but then a part of you moves to a higher perspective, then there's like the awakening, and in literal senses, then we may start experiencing our loved one's presence, and all these different evidences will show up. But that's an energy side. That's what's happening. I'm sorry, Chastity. Okay. All right. So I wanted to give you guys some tips on being an empath and an HSP. So first of all, a piece of it leaves with them. Yes. Yes. Well, you know what, Brad, I will tell you, and how I experienced that a few times, but one way that showed up for me, and I'll get to the empath thing. One way that showed up for me in a way that made it so concrete was actually when my father passed, and he passed in 2016. And my father had not been in my life for 30 years, maybe 40. I don't even remember how long. So, my mother and I left him when I was like 11. And then by the time I was 13, we moved out of state, and I didn't see him again. I saw him one time when I was 19 for one visit. And then the last couple of years of his life, so I was in my mid 40s. I saw him a couple of times because it was like I saw him after my husband and I got married. My husband wanted to meet my dad. We've been together 9 years, got married. My husband's like, let's see if we can meet your dad. And so I saw him then, and then I saw him like, I can't remember if it's once or twice more, because he was having events that seemed like they were the end of life. And so he wasn't in my life. So when he passed, while I did actually cross him over in, in a spiritual trance, he wasn't in my life. So my grief wouldn't be typical. When you lose someone that you love, there's this tremendous pain that they're no longer in your life. But my dad hadn't been in my life for most of my life. So I didn't have loss in that sense. But a part of me that was physical, that was my DNA, that was my soul contract, that was my energy, that was my ancestry, this proximate ancestry, had left this plane. And so for the few days around that, even though I didn't go back to his funeral even, because it was such chaos and it wasn't helping anyone. For me to be there, I was just the few days around that, I was so like out of it. And I remember talking to my husband and going like, oh my gosh, I just feel so astral. Like it's so hard for me to be grounded. And I heard spirit, I heard my guide say very clearly, yes, because a piece of you has left this plane. And so your energy has to learn how to reassimilate without that piece of you here. This wasn't even a person that I was close to, technically speaking, not emotionally speaking, not relationally speaking, just physically and spiritually, obviously, ancestrally. So then I was like, oh, so that's what happened there. Okay. For realsies, though, let's talk about the empath. So, an empath is someone who experiences other people's emotions as though they are their own. And those emotions then also often become thoughts because that's what emotions do. Now, I want to say that there is a shadow way for that or a codependent way for that. And there is a way that is both appropriate and natural and still like experiencing it so fully. Okay. So an empath that is experiencing outside energies as though they are their own, they can feel them, but if they lower their vibration to them and identify to them, then that is doing a disservice. Then that's the codependence because they've lost their sovereign frequency. They've lost their sovereign vibration to it. They've given it up. They can hold their sovereign frequency, hold that little, still small voice of, I wonder what good is coming of this. That pinpoint of light that can grow into the fountain of light that is available for the purpose of being able to experience all that is around. If they can experience it so profoundly, yet not give up the last bit of identifying to it, then the light that is not displaced by that identity, the light that it can grow, and then it can fill the field. And then that field becomes basically so filled and potent with light that it is like an acid solution. And I think it's the energy intensive the energy intensive, which I believe we'll be doing later this year, in which I actually give a demonstration. Put a little video up of acid solution dissolving anything that moves through it. So that's what the empath can do. They can have that energy come through, know it, feel it, and fully understand its identity, but not become the identity. Because as I forgot who said it, you can't become sick enough to make someone else well. But see, the codependent or the empath has been conditioned to use that capacity, that talent, that superpower to be able to fully experience someone else's needs, desires, turmoil, or even positivity, because if it's a heightened positivity, that can mess you up too, if you're identifying to it inappropriately. And just to be able to give up the identity or the sovereignty to it, then that's what the empath has sort of been bandied about in this world and conditioning the emotional or empathic nature to do it the wrong way. So here's the deal. I want to show you something that I put together. This is something that I have, pardon me, I'm having a hard time multitasking. La, la, la. Is this it? No. Is this it? Yes. Okay. In my experiences with clients and students, as I ask for their charts, I look up their human design charts, and I actually did an experiment over the summer. It was where I developed a system, a 12-step system for empaths, and it's more than just the 12 steps too. And I worked with some people voluntarily, and I developed a system that helps empaths to become empowered and awakened, and to turn that which is really like the autoimmune system of the emotional body into the right way of the well-being machine as opposed to attacking itself. And I noticed that, it's not even that radical of something to notice, I'll say, but okay. So if you pull your human design chart, and this center right here, the solar plexus, which in human design they often also call the emotional center, that is the center that if you have that undefined, if you have it white like that, then those are usually people who identify as empaths, or they just are highly empathic, and whether they know that word or not. Like, I didn't know it for a long time, so it didn't really matter whether I identified as it. And because with that open, or undefined, I should say, is more appropriate, that undefined emotional center, then I'm going to read to you from this app because it says it really eloquently. The person with the undefined solar plexus, people with an undefined solar plexus take other people's feelings and emotions and amplify them. I said that I amplify because I want to expand upon that. And the most important thing for them is to understand that the emotions that they feel it's very likely that they're not theirs. And then, of course, they should only make decisions when these emotions have passed. Honestly, that's true for everyone. You should only make decisions when the emotions have passed, because if you have a defined emotional center, then you're an emotional authority, and you should wait until the emotions have passed. And that essentially, too, the other thing to say about that is that's being in a state of hypnosis. And if it's a negative emotion, then it's the fight flight, which is not the authoritative mind for anyone. So what I wanted when I amplify, as I said, that people who have an undefined solar plexus take other people's feelings and emotions and amplify them. Amplification actually can happen with any of these open centers, any of these undefined centers. Whatever the issue is, or the concern, the energy of these centers, you can also amplify there. So like the one that's right there in the middle, that is the square, and that is the identity center. And so people with an unidentified identity center may end up looking for love and direction their whole life. The wisdom of this undefined center is to go through life as a chameleon, understanding that their identity is dependent upon the environment and is transient. So if you have an undefined identity center, it's about love and love of the self. And if someone else is feeling a lack of self-love, then you may amplify that. But anyway, back to the emotional center and what people, I would say it makes sense if you have any of these open, that you may sometimes feel like you have that empath thing going on, but particularly because this has to do with the emotions, this emotional center, the solar plexus being open, that amplification is essentially like, I am feeling, okay, my husband is feeling sad. I am feeling that emotion because that's what I do with an open emotional center. But I feel it like it's on a 7, whereas for him, it may feel like it's a 3. I amplify it. So there is a good function to it. Weirdly enough, as long as I don't believe it, as long as I don't succumb to it and give over my sovereignty to it, I can basically pump light into it. And that's an amplification that will be helpful. Now, what does that look like in life? I'll take this down for a second. What is that? Is that so abstract? I'm saying pump light into it. Well, I can hold the light in the awareness of my husband feeling sad. And what that means is that I'm available, maybe that I'm holding space, as we say, so I'm available to him. And as I'm holding the light, then just maybe it is just the metaphysical plane where prayer and energy is working. And maybe it then shows up in actions. If he's sad, then I'm doing some extra things around the house. I'm giving some extra encouragement and nurturing to him that will help him to be soothed. And then I'm available to dispense wisdom, because if I'm filled with light and I've pumped this amplification full of light, then I'm holding the space of, I wonder what good is coming of this, and that sadness actually is bringing us to a greater hope, or whatever it may be. If I can hold that light and not be matching his frequency, then I'm available to the healing, but I can feel it that is as important as it is my own, because that's what the empath does. That's what the open solar plexus will do. And if I can identify to the hope in the situation, or identify to the light in it, even though it's, by the way, I will tell you, it's super uncomfortable to be feeling those things that deeply. But you know what is a good medicine for that discomfort? Holding the light. So what is holding the light? This is it's imagery, it's a metaphor, but it's also, in a metaphysical sense, literal. I see it as, or I feel it as, filling my field with light, that column of light. And that light is purifying, that light is source light, that light is God light. And it fills every nook and cranny of the space that is meant to be mine, and it extends beyond it. So I don't even know what the space that isn't mine. So you see how I've now moved from codependency of losing my identity to sensitivity of understanding what's happening and allowing light to be pumped into the knowing of what's happening, and then sacrificing my personal ego identity to the one identity because I am light. And that's what I mean. And I choose to hold it because for me, I feel that pull of the pain of that emotional resonance. And then I choose to hold the resonance of light, so that then as that still comes into my energy profoundly and directly and literally, it's met with light, which can only offer, can only diffuse, can only love. And so for me, it is actually a feeling. It's more than just a visualization, because I'm more of clairsentient. It's holding that light, and I feel it threatened because I'm like, what if I just go ahead and crumble and feel extremely sad? And then I go, no, I'm going to hold the light because something good can come of this. So that's what I have for you as a tip. Let's see, I'll show you that again. And that is this little guy here. But again, if you have that defined, it could be any of these other centers. It could also be the gates that are undefined, that could also pull in sensitivity. And I'll just tell you also that in the intuitive intensive, I go deep into this lesson, and I also talk about HSP, which is a little bit more complex. And that's that. So, what are you keeping to yourself? Alyssa, what are you keeping to yourself? I have to take a sip. Let's see. Someone says here they have an undefined G Center. So Alicia has an undefined G Center, which is I would always forget that. Is that the heart or the identity? Oh, I forget which one is the G Center because it's like a nickname. Will you remind me which one that is, Alicia? Is it the heart or is it the identity? Oh, I'll look at it in a second. You don't want to. All right, guys. So let me see what we got here. This is important, folks. It could take a lifetime to separate yourself from other people's emotions. Amen. Rachel, I only have 2 centers closed defined. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting because, again, all of the charts are so amazing because I also see people, if they have a good amount of definition, like, is this one? No, this one's pretty open, the one that my example. Because if they have, let's say, rather than having only 2 defined centers, which means you're very open, and being open means that you are both vulnerable to conditioning, but it also means you have the greatest capacity for gaining more wisdom from that center. It's a paradox. And then I see people, if they have a lot of definition, let's say they have all defined but 1 or 2 centers, it's almost like it puts so much pressure on those 2 that are undefined, those open ones, to they get even more they amplify even more because they have so much stable energy in all of the other areas. Yeah, every chart is beautiful and amazing. Identity. Okay, thank you. I'm thinking that that's what we're saying, is that the identity center is the G center. Thank you for reminding me of that. And that is, so the identity. Okay, you know what? See, that's the thing. I also see a lot of people who are like empaths or feel like they're an empath. I see them with the unidentified. I feel the undefined identity center, because it's the same thing, like losing your identity to something, which would be primary. And then secondary to that, maybe they start to feel the feelings of the identity lost. So that was the one that I just mentioned as the example, actually, was the identity. What is Mikey saying? Is the Jovian Archive the same design chart you use? Yeah, I think that one that I just showed you, Actually, no, I think the one that I just showed you is actually from an app that I have. And this app is just called Human Design. And but there are a lot of different apps. Gosh, I think I'm forgetting her name right now. Zoe is her first name, and I think she has an app, and people like that one, but I'm not using that one. The main reason that I am using this app is because I need quick reference to all the things, and I just found that one first, and I bought it. I paid a little money for it. But yeah, Jovian Archive is online. Jovian Archive is the official human design platform. And Kayla says, I work at a homeless shelter and volunteer at an animal shelter. A lot of chaotic energy in both places. And as an empath, I really struggle some days, even when I focus on holding the light. Yeah, I hear you. And thank you so much for doing that work. Yeah, I know. And I get it. And I 100% definitely wouldn't say we're ever perfect. We're human. It's just really nice to know that it's possible, and that can help us at least on some of the days. And it still helps us on all of the days, I think, because I know that I've had a string of hundreds and hundreds of days where I didn't have any of that deconditioning, to be able to hold the light, because that's really natural for us to hold the light. But yeah, I mean, you're building up so much. Your heart is collecting so much compassion, and actually if we can collect too much compassion, it becomes density, because compassion and grief, that is meant to be processed. And so yeah, you're essentially becoming a dumping ground, in the trash can, the vessel of what you are receiving, it just becomes full. So what I would say is, actually, I want to pull you a card, Kayla. Is that okay? I'm just going to pull you a card. I mean, you're sharing vulnerably, and you're not asking specifically for a reading. So that's why I'm just going to pull you a card to see if there is a advice or comfort. Which card does she want? Which card? For Kayla, which card? Okay, thank you. And which card deck? So I'm pulling from the Atlantis deck. Yeah. I mean, in the place that you are, it is focusing on holding the light, and that is keeping you healthier, and it's helping others. And then, yeah, just energy hygiene in this, with it being as prolific of work that you're doing. And here we go. Oh, it says mind control. I'll show you the image. Oh yeah, you can kind of see it. It's far away. From early childhood, the Atlanteans practiced mind control. They were able to focus their thoughts into a stream of energy to move objects, light up or program crystals, and ultimately manifest their will. In the halcyon days, they only ever used this power for the highest good of all. The highly trained magi were expected to control all of their bodily functions, including temperature, sugar levels, and metabolism. They also mastered their energy fields so that they could levitate, bilocate, and render themselves invisible. Your guidance is to watch your thoughts carefully today, for an undisciplined mind can be influenced by others and creates chaos. A positively focused mind is a tool for powerful leadership. Concentrate this power for the benefit of everyone and for your own self-healing. Concentrate the power of your mind for good. Wow. That's talking about that highly empathic nature. Yeah. So what I would take from this, Kayla, is I'm sure if you can maybe triple up on your priming to be able to go into these situations, and that will help, because sometimes it's going to be, we go through cycles, and it's like you're doing really great on your practice and your personal development, spiritual development, consciousness practice, but sometimes we need to up level it in order to help the mind to become more healed and hold more positive and, directed. And they're talking about like evidential mind frequencies. And that'll help you to be healthy and help you. And they're just encouraging you. It seems to me like they're just encouraging you to keep it up, and that you have the skills and tools to keep evolving, and even though it becomes heavy and dense. Well, thank you again for that work, and thanks for sharing. It is Diana Cooper's Atlantis cards. It just says Atlantis cards. Yeah. Okay. A lot of chaotic energy. Thank you for, I'm in healthcare, and lots of chaotic energy in my office can be challenging at times. Yeah. Thank you for that work that you're doing. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate you. So let's see. I'm going to skim through, and I'm going to see if anybody has. I want to see if anybody has any other anything you'd like to share, or if you would like some intuitive insight on. Kayla says there's a lot of heaviness for sure. I've been thinking about it more ways I can build up my energy. Thank you. Oh, thank you for that reassurance. Absolutely. Build up the energy. That's a good way to say it. And I have to remind myself of that too, how you can build up your energy, because, you know, you're connected to all the resources that you need. All right. So I would like to, actually, you know what I think I'm going to do is, oh, wait, I'm all over the place. I get a little, Alyssa says human design is fascinating. I had a reading once and it was pretty blown away by the accuracy. I know. That's how well we are known. That's how specifically we are designed. I love it. Yeah. Yes, like charging a battery. That's right. Being able to charge up your energy. It's like charging a battery. And, you know, the what they're actually telling me that's important for us to know too is to realize that batteries start to lose their capacity to hold a charge, and in this life, a battery that is losing its capacity to hold a charge, let's say if it's a rechargeable battery, then it needs to be discarded eventually. But for us, before we, that does happen to us eventually, like toward the end of our life, whatever that path would be. But what we can do is that we can actually go into deeper recharge states, which is why we have things like Mercury retrograde, which is why we have the different festivals of the of nature, and why we have seasons is so that we can be encouraged and compelled even to go into that deeper recharging state, so that we're not only just building up the energy, but we're rebuilding the tool, we're rebuilding the body and the mechanism. And that's important for us too. And the thing is, the conditioned program, the matrix, the field, the collective unconscious would have us move through all of those things, move through all of the festivals, the holidays, the Mercury retrogrades, the whatever, all of the retrogrades, all of the times, or even a day off or sleeping appropriately, all of these things that we are encouraged or conditioned to blow past. But that's not how nature works. And you are nature. But yeah, absolutely. Oh, here we go. Brandy would like something. Can you give me advice on me as an empath and daughter who is empathic, highly sensitive as well? I shield every day and ground. Good. Keep that up. And so the first thing they're telling me is that they want to give you the word permission, and they want you to find more ways to give yourself permission. Okay, thank you. So they're explaining to me, we really need to hear the word empath when it is a struggle or a challenge, or we're suffering from the empathic nature. Then we can just call it codependent, because we are energetically codependent, meaning we are losing our spiritual energetic identity to something. And so where were you guys going with that? Thank you. Permission slips. So they say permission, give yourself more permission to be who you are, which may mean that you are tired and you need to somehow honor the fact. You first have to honor and embrace the fact that you are tired, or that you need less stimulation. And that when you first honor it, then the field will start to show it up in your life. And so that may mean that you need more meditation. That may mean that you need more sleep. It may mean that you need less work. It may mean a lot of things. It may mean that there's someone in your life who you need to spend less time with. And they may be someone that you love and someone that depends on you, but you still may need to spend less time with them. It can mean all kinds of things. It can mean permission to come home from the day and meditate before you do anything else. And the meditation can look like, maybe it's taking a bath before you make dinner. So that, how do I do that? Because everyone's home. Well, if you honor it first, then the life starts to change around it. And so they say, give yourself permission to be more of who it is that you really are. And that the clues to that are the ways that you feel. The clues to that are the ways that you feel. And the loudest clues are the ways that you feel bad. Because when you feel bad, it means that the gentle nudges have gone on and on and on and on, and that we have ignored them. And we've said that I don't have permission to honor that. I don't have permission to listen to that. I don't have permission to take action upon that. Then it starts to become painful. The subconscious mind always gets what it needs. If we try to sublimate our desires, they don't go anywhere. They get louder and they become patterns that create discomfort, suffering. But they want to give you the word permission as a way to shape mantras, as a way to reshape your life, and to talk to your daughter about her, to get her in touch with her personal energy, her personal sovereignty. And I would look at her chart too, Brandy, and see, her human design chart, and see what her authority is, and help her to understand how to use her authority and her strategy, since we're in a human design moment here. And I think that would be really fantastic. But to give her, I have permission to take care of my body. I have permission to take care of my emotions. I have permission to take care of my mind by spending time in my meditation, my contemplation, or perhaps my bath. And to turn this difficulty and the struggle into celebration. I have permission to take this struggle and allow it to show me where the celebration is in this very frequency. Because again, if we think about it, like we take a cue from the gene keys, where they are frequency bands of shadow, gift, and divine gift. If we are suffering because of our sensitivity, then we know there's a celebration available as we move through the challenge of the shadow. Authority. I have to show you. You can't make this shit up. I just told you to look at your daughter's authority. Oh my gosh. That's the whole message. It's not just that I told you to, to look at your daughter's chart and help her with her working with her authority, but also giving yourself permission, taking the authority back. And so this card says the frequency of authority reminds us that true authority is powerful, directed, and realized, yet receptive, wise, and loving. That is so important. It is so important for the highly empathic person to realize that true authority is not just powerful and direct, which is great because we need that, but it is also receptive and wise and loving. Boundaries are loving for others, just as loving for others as they are for you. Boundaries are about keeping your energy in and about showing others who you truly are. And you know what? Who they truly are wants to know who you truly are. That's just a fact. That's just really it. So that's what boundaries help us to. And we need to, they're saying permission because they want you to know that you may need to put boundaries around your life and the way that you've said yes to things that are not right for you, they're not correct for you, and that you maybe need to put some boundaries up around that. And we don't have to let that overwhelm us. It's one piece at a time. We joyfully embrace the gift that is being offered and identify to, I'm getting better at shifting my life. I'm giving myself permission to shift my life. Maybe it's my hours, the time that I'm spending on things that are depleting me versus things that are filling me up. I'm getting better at that. And I give myself permission to take back my energy, to call back my energy, and to continue to fill it up with those activities and those contemplations that are correct for me, that help me to stay full and filled with that light so that I am of the greatest service. And I trust that the field and everyone here on their purest level want that from me. I trust it. I'm saying this for myself too. Thank you. Thank you. Amen. I trust that the field wants that from me, and therefore it is conspiring to provoke it from me, to compel it from me. My highest service, being filled with light, being balanced, being in the treasuring of myself so that I can be treasure for everyone else. This is how literal energy is. This is what the golden rule means. Love thy neighbor as thyself. These are equal. This is equal. There is no way for it to be out of balance. Out of balance always seeks balance. And so I truly trust that my highly sensitive nature, that my empathic nature is here to hold the light and be the greatest wisdom it can, a child who is sensitive to the needs of all that are there, including the adults, including those who are of a greater stature of life, can give us the most profound of wisdom because it comes directly from source. It comes directly from the source. It comes directly from source. And so we channel this to you now. And we give to you the turquoise light. And those of you who would choose to feel and hear this, if you would close your eyes and breathe deeply in and feel the turquoise light, the ray of turquoise, which is the Christ light of becoming human, spirit becoming human, and expressing itself as balanced and beautiful human. We give to you the turquoise ray, and we grant you with the number 33 and the triangular grid, these symbols that some of you will remember and recall, and as you have them show up in your world, in your events, as synchronicities. And even if they fall upon you now and you say, what is this with your conscious mind? We say, just wait and be surprised. The turquoise ray is shining down and through and into you. If you take a breath now, you can breathe it in into those energy centers who crave it so much. And this can be a soothing balm to your energy, an empowering energy to set right that which has gone wrong. And we do this with a cherishing of the path that was alternate, because it did give us strength and it gave us perspective and it gave us something to bring back to that path of light. And you're called back now with the turquoise ray, the fractal light of God, the fractal light of source. And you're called back by masters and alchemists. For some of you, that is Saint Germain. Some of you, Jesus, Yeshua the Christ. For some of you, that is Francis of Assisi. And for some others of you, it is Hermes Trismegistus, and it is so many others. And even for those of you who are identifying with the Divine Mother and her frequencies of nurturing and love and power and birthing, this is offered to you now. And we come to you from the perspective of Ra. We come to you from the perspective of those who are studying at the altar of great masters. And we say, you are that master. We call to your awareness the law of resonance, and that you could only ever begin to entertain or hear the name of masters because you are that master as well. You are a fractal, an aspect. You are that great journeyer, that great wanderer. And we just give you this ray of turquoise to help you to also be home at the same time, O journeyer. Be home at the same time. For you are ever in the bosom of love. You are ever in the bosom of divine. And you are never apart. You are never apart, away from divine. You are the finger of God. You are the blessing that has been dispatched from the lips of Source. And you have done this of your own free accord, for you have the choice. And so we call you home now with the attuning and with the grounding and the ascending light of turquoise. And this is for all. And we bring back the channel and we say amen, and so it is. All right, guys. Okay, well, I think that'll do it for this one. And I had a great time. Thank you so much for everyone who joined me here. Oh boy, I enjoyed that channeling. So thank you so much, everyone, for co-creating this right now. I feel so good with that turquoise ray. There were so many masters, interdimensionals just bopping in and out of that frequency because you guys all called them in. So thank you for allowing me to be in that energy with you. That was, yes, it was powerful. Thank you. I mean, that's not me saying, oh, pat me on the back. I mean, I'm thanking you because you all gave that to us. It felt so good to me too. So I just want to, as I'm signing off here, I want to remind you of the Intuitive Intensive because I would really, I know we're all coming together in the right divine timing, but I just want to mention it again. And it's class.lightshineacademy.com/2022 II. It starts next week. And this was so much fun. Maybe I'll see you again this week. Maybe I'll see you on Instagram. Find me there at Tricia Carr Charm. And this was so fun. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Get thee to the intensive. Yes. Galactic beings, Brad. Yes. Did you feel those? I love you. Thank you. I love you too. And so have a beautiful night. I love you, whoever you are.